I have a friend of mine who, well, he's not a friend, but I know this guy that has he's not even that, but he has a group that,
Christopher.
yeah, yeah. And, we've had him not at this church, but some other churches. And he does it. This guy, quick, I'm thinking about people here now. But these guys, there's like 6 or 7 of them in the group. And now the last time I saw them, they had like 4 or 5 girls that was a part of the group as well. They did it. They did a job. You
They did a great job.
They did. Brian quit.
Wow, you are a doctor.
Yeah.
What a doctor.
Yeah. But my doctorate is not in foreign language.
See, he's half Spanish. So you already close it out like real quick. Gotta keep up with
What about this one? HR, public stuff. Two friends and HR. Well, HR, public stuff, right? Yeah, you do a little bit. Yeah, with when is that? Cool, is that true? What? Yeah.
Oh, this is God. You ain't God.
My old. So, double get that. Cool.
Okay, first pitch, look at that.
I don't know shit. Like my kids won't tell me. My young kids won't tell me what it is. I know. So like some things they won't tell me about because they know they're supposed to say it.
Also, get you a female, give it take a food.
Oh,
That's why females take a food.
Oh, see, and my kids they won't tell me. Like my little brother.
You don't want somebody taking you through it.
Well, if it's like 2 or 3 of them, F-E-M. Female, male, and I'm the M.
Friends been.
Well, I guess it's time.
I ain't heard that in a while. All right, let's go.
Morning, ladies. I know that you are all over there ready to go and everything. Make sure we get this morning our sign-in sheet signed in.
Right here.
Sign on the right one. You, everybody by now ought to know whether or not you're TAP or HHSC. So sign on the right one. Make sure it's legible so that I can read it. I haven't been feeling well here lately, so getting in there and deciphering things is not something I'm really.
Been praying for you, dog.
I do appreciate that. I've had several people tell me that they've been praying for me, and I tell you that's the key, because I'm going to die. But I'm going to die when God says so, and the doctors and the lawyers don't have anything to say about it. But we do. So y'all just continue to pray for me. And I really do appreciate it being lifted up to heaven. I'm going on next week's going to be a little short week because I'm going on Wednesday of next week. So I have 7 more days. And they're going to do a heart catheterization thing where they go in through my vein and they go and look. They did that 5 years ago and they had to put 3 stents in that artery. And so that, worked out. I've lived 5 years and it was really good. And so hopefully they'll, you have to go both ways. I don't know. I'm hoping they'll find something, fix something, everything will be fine, Or if they don't find something, then I got to go in and see what's going on with my stomach because it's still hurting like crazy. But I do know that you guys love me and all of that stuff. And if I need a stomach transplant,
Got it right here.
there you go. See?
I don't need one of those.
Oh, y'all don't need no belly. I'll take you. Yeah. There's some of y'all, and I'm not gonna say who. I don't want your stomach, But for those of you who, and I was telling my boss, I got up this morning and I felt really lightheaded and everything, and then I said, man, that don't feel right. That ain't right. And then I remembered I got a haircut, so. So that's a lot of it. So anyway, if you have your book, man, that's a great thing. I didn't bring mine, so see how that is. So I'm gonna step right over here and get my book. I'll be back in 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
1, 2. I knew one of y'all be a butt on.
But like you want, like that.
I heard that. You knew it. Like I knew it.
That wasn't 2 seconds. Y'all go 1, 2. That ain't 2 seconds. So anyway, our book. Now I have been told that I started off on the wrong thing. So next week, when we start off, we're going to start off on emotional health next week, and we just finished up our physical stuff. So we're not going to do any emotional thing because we're going to start that next Monday. And starting on next Monday, which is the 12th, we're going to have bulletins again. We're supposed to have bulletins, and each one of the counselors write out a good bulletin. Now, I'm sure that they do that over at North because those guys, Miss Valencia over there, is sharper than a tack, and she makes sure that everything works the way that it's supposed to work. But I'm the clinical manager over here, so things work on a hit and miss kind of basis because, that's just the way it is. But those bulletins are going to come back into vogue starting on the 12th. And I'm going to do the first one on the 12th, and it's going to be on something or another. And I think it's going to be on spirituality. But we'll have what that is. I don't know if you've ever had one. I know some of you have. But it's just going to give you an idea of what's going to go on for the week, and it's got some like a kind of in-house newspaper that you can take a look at, and it's going to be that's going to be done next week. So we ended up on our physical thing, and one of the things I want to say about the physical thing, and then we're going to go on into what we're doing today, which is going to be it's going to have nothing to do with the book at all. But at some point when we do our physical stuff, when we're trying to work with our physical health, and right now, today, that is my focus, is my physical health, because I haven't been healthy in like a month. And so right now, that's my physical health is my major focus right at this point in time because I got to get well so that I can do well. So the last thing that we talked about was maintenance. So here's the deal. I talk to a lot of people who talk about getting into shape. Why do we have to get into shape? Because we're out of shape. Why are we out of shape?
It wasn't our priority.
It was not our priorities. We did not maintain it. We didn't try to keep it going. And so here's the deal. Once I get into good shape, I've got to keep that good shape. Anybody remember Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yep.
He was the governor over there at in California, and then he was Mr. Olympia like 5 or 6, 12 times, a bunch. He had muscles on his muscles, and he was looking very good, and he was in really good shape and all of that kind of stuff. But every now and then you can catch him on the YouTube, and he's not looking all. He's kind of flabby, now, and that's because, for one thing, he's like 80 years old now. So he's lost a lot of that muscularity and all of that drive. But look, I was telling y'all last week, they have a Mr. Over 60 contest, Mr. Over 70, Mr. Over 80, Mr. Over 90, and that's for men and women. And so there are people that are as old as he is or even older that are still competing. And that, they don't look like a 25-year-old bodybuilder, but they look pretty good, and they're doing really well. And so here's the thing, that the thing is that we have to maintain that. The secret is to find something that we enjoy doing that will help us get into shape, and then once we get into shape, we maintain it. We stay with it. We stick with it. And what's the most important thing that we have to do to get into shape? We have to do what? Exercise.
Eat healthy.
Eat healthy. Sleep right. All of that stuff. But the main thing is something.
Breathe.
We need to do something.
Breathe.
Breathing is good because once you stop breathing, people, you start rotting and stuff like that. Yeah, but we need to do something. We don't have to go do exactly what somebody else is doing. We can find something that we like. I see the guys out there playing some kind of game with a ball. They call it basketball, but I've seen basketball, and that ain't what it looks like. So anyway, they're out there playing with that ball. That's good exercise. It's something for them to do. Other people I see just walking around. Other people I see out there lifting weights and stuff like that. And here's the deal. The secret is that they're all doing the same thing while doing different stuff. They're doing something. Walking, running, doing something. So find something that you enjoy doing and do it. So, what is this? What do y'all, some people have been talking about this. What does this look like? I know that over north it looks like a big blob with a light shining on it, stuff like that. That's not what it is. This is a guy having what?
A drink.
He's having a drink. Yeah. And so what he is doing is, I've had a whole ton of people tell me one can't hurt you. Is that true?
What we heard.
One may not hurt you, but I tell you, if you take one, you may have 300 beyond that. Yeah. So, it is the 3,000th one that's going to hurt us really badly. But this one, look, that first one gets it started. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about relapse prevention. One of the biggest things, look, when we get out of here, we've got to be really concerned with the relapse prevention. And let me tell you something, we're not. 90% of the time, look, I know that's a big number, and I know that most statistics are just sucked out of the air, but about 90% of us are not really as concerned about relapse and relapse prevention as we ought to be. Because if we were, we wouldn't be relapsing. And if we were, we would take seriously things like old people, places, and things. I get talked to a lot about old people, places, and things. I get people telling me all the time, and they're true, and it's true. Every bit of it's true. I can't tell a person who to hang out with when they leave here. Is that true?
Oh, sure.
It is true. I can tell you that. I can tell you who you ought not hang out with. I can tell you what you ought to do when you leave from here. But the decisions you make are based upon who you are and how serious you are about getting in your recovery. Most of us are going to go right back to the same old people in the same old places and do the same old thing. We've come in, we've gotten sober, we've gotten some tools to use, and we feel like we've got it in spite of the fact that we're going to poo-poo all of the information that we've got. And we get out of here, and I do it a lot, but I know I can't see you ladies, but how many people have people out there that are friends out there that are still using? Okay. Almost everybody in here. So if we've got friends out there that are still using, why do we have those friends who are still using? Why are they still our friends? Why are they still our acquaintances? Why do we still know those people? Got something? You were just scratching your head? All right. Why do we still have those friends?
You still have reservations?
Say it again?
Still have reservations?
To have reservations?
We still have
You can go get
to
some dope.
go be friends with them.
And so you can, and so you know where to go to get some.
Yeah.
Because you still care about them.
Because you still care about them?
Because not all of our bonds are based upon,
Yeah. We got a lot of good answers there. We still have those people in our life because we still care about them. That's a big deal. When you love somebody, what happens? You love that person. You love that person. You want to be around that person. That person stirs up your pheromones when you get near that person. That person has some shared experiences with you and all of that kind of. Sometimes we're married to that person or shacked up with that person or partnered up with that person in one way or another. So it makes it kind of hard to get that person out of our sphere of influence, right? It's hard. And this is not something, look, recovery itself is a hard thing. Sometimes it's really, really hard to do. So that's one of the hard things, getting rid of those people. But if we keep those people, just like you said, most of the time it's because I want to keep that connection so that if I need my next fix, my next drink, I know where to go get that thing. And I've had people tell me that's not it. Yeah, it is. Because it's not you consciously who's making that decision. It's your unconscious, it's your limbic system who's saying we can't get rid of Bubba because if we get rid of Bubba, that means we cannot go back and get that stuff that we used to get from Bubba. We've got to keep that connection open so in case we're ready, then they'll be there. That's why we keep going to you and yelling and screaming and talking about old people, places, and things. Because if we don't get rid of old people, what have we done? We have gotten ourselves into some sobriety, which means I'm sober for the moment. But I have not gotten into a lifestyle of recovery. Recovery is a lifestyle change. I can't keep doing the same things I was doing before, expecting to stay in my recovery, expecting to stay sober. I can't do that. It's not possible. I can't look. I have a guy that's been, I know him on the outside. He's been sober about 4 years now. He's doing really, really well for somebody who is white-knuckling it. He doesn't like AA, so he don't do that. He still goes to the bar. But he goes to the bar just to play pool. And he drinks Coca-Cola while he's at the bar. He keeps a bottle of booze in his refrigerator just to remind him that that stuff really destroyed his life and he doesn't want to get started back on him again. So what would you call that fellow? I think he's stupid. Look, I'm trying to be nice, kind, good, and sweet, but he's stupid because he's doing everything that he can do to relapse, and he will. And every time I talk to him, he says, I've been sober for 4 years. Okay. All right. Man, I hope you make it, and there are outliers. I hope he makes it the rest of his life like that. I've got every doubt that I can have in my mind. I don't think he's going. I'm surprised every time I see him that he's still sober.
I feel like he still don't love himself. Yeah.
He's what?
He still don't love himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you doubt someone like that? You don't think there is people out there that can actually do that in that way?
Yeah, I do. I do think that there are people out there who can do that, white knuckling it, never getting into a real place where they are comfortable in their recovery in a healthy way. And, they're always just on the edge all the time. Yes, I do believe there's people out there that can live like that, but they're not comfortable. They are not going to have a good life like that. And I doubt it because, look, here's the deal. If I'm living on the edge all the time, what's it going to take to push me over the edge? Now, this is the same guy that I told you guys last week who said that he was in his recovery because his daughter wanted him to be in his recovery. So he's not in his recovery for himself. He's in his recovery for his daughter. What happens if his daughter gets run over by a car and killed?
And he's prepared for it. He's going to get drunk.
He doesn't have anything else. So he's probably not going to do it. And the point is, there's a difference between sobriety, which is what he is in, and recovery. Recovery says, I don't go to the bars anymore.
Right.
That's not a place for me. I don't hang out with Bubba anymore. That's not a person I need to be around because he's still using. And if me and Bubba used to use together, I've had a lot of people tell me, well, my friends love me. They love me. And they've all told me that if they'll come and, we get back together and all of that stuff, they would never use in front of me. Is that good? It is good that they won't use in front of you. They love you enough to not use their drug of choice in front of you, but that's not what's going to trigger you. You're going to be triggered by that person. That's why we say you have to stay away from old people, places, and things. If you don't, some people can, but if you don't stay away from old people, places, and things, your chances of staying in your recovery are almost nil, almost nothing, almost zero. You're just not going to be able to do it. And here's the thing. Look, I see how y'all lean on me, but here's the thing. There are no stupid people in here. There's brilliant people. You guys are smart. I know that. I've seen that. I've listened to how you speak to me. I know you've got intelligence. So you know that's true. But we try to come up with good excuses for bad behavior. We come up with that good excuse, you don't know that person like I know that person. I don't care. I've been around that person 1,000 times and I didn't use one. I don't care. You know that person's going to trigger you to you. You know that. You know that. But you'll still argue about it with your counselor. You'll argue with it with me about it. You'll argue with it about it in group and all of that kind of stuff, knowing that's true. So, yeah. Why? Yes.
I had a 4-year, right? I never really truly loved myself.
Well, I don't care for you at all myself. We're in good company.
Myself, I would want to separate myself from anything that would destroy me.
Right, and that's a good point. He said, I've never got to the place where I love myself. And if I love myself, I'm going to separate myself from anything that's going to destroy me. And that's a good point. We don't do that. That's why we use drugs and alcohol. That's also why we've relapsed 9 times. That's also why we use food that is atrocious, that's terrible, that's going to kill us. We know that food, and that's because people are so sweet, nice, kind, and good to us. They brought all of those goodies over here from the Dream Center the other day. Pecan pies. That is poison. It tastes good, But it's poison. Do we throw that out when somebody tries to make us eat that poison crap? No, we eat it. You know? So it's good. Here's some of the things. These are just some tips. And we all, look, I'm going to tell you, I just believe I have done this for quite a few years. And I just believe, and I know the ladies over at North are the same way. I just believe that this group, both of these groups, know what it takes to stay in recovery. You know that. You know that. Most of us who want to go back to the same old people, that's the reason we relapsed last time we relapsed. Those people.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, we'll say, nah. Oh, yeah, well. Just look, it's not about being smart. It's about being honest. I need to be honest with myself. Here's some tips that will help us. So these tips, I didn't write these. These come from the AMA. So some things keep us from doing there. The most important moment before relapse isn't the final decision to use a drug. I have so many people tell me, I relapsed. Okay, why? I don't know why. Yeah, you do. You're lying, low down, no count, no good for nothing lower than a snake's bit in a wagon rut piece. Yes, you do. So it's not that last moment. You didn't accidentally stop somewhere. It's like the guy that said, you know, the only place I could find to park was in front of the bar. And I had to circle the block 22 times before I found that place to park. And while I was there, I decided to go in and see who was there, any of my friends. So it wasn't that final decision. It's when you decide to expose yourself to your triggers. And we need to get a hold of that. What are the universal triggers? What are the triggers that are the same for everybody? What are they? People, places, and things. That's the universal relapse triggers. Those are the things that's going to cause you to relapse. For example, a trigger could be going to a party. That's places. Or walking through a liquor section at the store. There's places. There used to be stores, you go to a grocery store and there was no liquor in it. You can't do that anymore. You go to Market Basket, they've got this place in the back that's freezing cold and got all kind of booze in it. All kind of beer, wine. They don't have any liquor, but they got beer and wine, all this stuff. Get you good and started. So before encountering your triggers, you still have most of the control over your craving. Once you encounter that trigger, then you have began to lose control over the craving. And the craving gets a hold of you. And so if that person is a trigger, how does that person become a trigger? There's someone I've used with before. And if I've used with that person before, they're going to be a trigger. Not them using, not them abusing, just them. Their voice over the telephone can be a trigger for you. So we need to know that. It's not about that last few seconds. It's about that trigger. So here's some of the other things when something happens, when we do see that trigger, when that thing happens, sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes my children are my trigger. You ever known anybody who used drugs with their children?
Yep.
Yeah. So that can be a trigger to you. Is it unavoidable? According to how old your children are.
Right.
My kids, my grandkids are grown.
Right.
I have great-grandkids who are not grown, but my grandkids are in their 20s and in their 30s, and so I don't have to go hang out with those people, and I don't. If those people are a trigger for me, I won't hang out with them. But here's one of the things, if it's unavoidable, something happens, and we do run into one of our triggers, if you're feeling the urge to use, anybody ever had the urge to use?
Yeah.
This deep desire, I need it, I want it, gotta have it. Then we need to, first thing we need, can't live without it because your limbic system will tell you that you cannot live without it. The first thing we need to do is try to write it out. Just wait a minute. When that urge hits, don't run to the bar. When that urge hits, don't run to the corner. When that urge hits, don't go over to Bubba's house. Try to wait it out. It doesn't. How long does an urge like that? How long does the craving usually last?
8 minutes.
About 8 seconds.
8 seconds.
It'll hit you about 8 seconds, and then it'll go away.
Right.
But if you begin to think about it, if you begin to entertain it, then it'll come back. And if you entertain it again, it'll come back again and again and again. And whatever that is, it's going to hit you. It's going to get worse and worse and worse the more you entertain it. Right? So if you don't entertain it, if you figure a way to distract yourself away from that, you can live through it. You can get through it. I don't have to use this time. One of the things I did when I was first in my recovery, I would talk to that urge when it got there and say, not today, maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow, but not today. Sometimes it got so bad and I'd say, no, look, it's 11 o'clock. We ain't going to do it until 12. Let's talk about it again at 12 o'clock and then try to find something else to do. So I need to distract myself from that. And you can distract yourself from it. If you distract yourself even for 30 minutes, find something you have to do. I had a lady that told me that when she had an urge hit her for her drug of choice, that she would clean her house. She would start cleaning her house. I said, well, ma'am, that sounds like a good distraction. Is that working? She said, yep, but I got to clean this house in town. She was having some issues. So, she's cleaning the heck out. And that works. Go work on your car. Go wash your car. Somebody needs to wash my car now. It's nasty. We need to do some things to distract ourselves from using. What do we do? Anything but you. Read a book, watch a movie, anything. Sing a song, anything. Distract yourself. It's likely your craving will lessen in intensity. It may not totally disappear, but it'll become easier to resist. I have done that. And y'all know those, y'all know what a snapper is? Snapper's a rubber band that you put on your wrist. And if you have that urge to come in there, you snap that thing, and the pain of that rubber band hitting your wrist will distract you. And it will also, it's not just about you, it distracts your limbic system. Your limbic system is saying, yes, pop, oh crap, that hurt. Now, if that don't work, get you a bigger, wider rubber band, put one of them thumbtacks in it. That'll stop. That'll distract you a little bit. So, if that don't work, you have to continue working with that, trying that, continuing to distract yourself. Will the urge come back? Perhaps. After a while, does the urge ever go away? At some point, it gets to the place where it's not really a factor in your life. It becomes, that thought might run back by the back of your mind every now and then, but it's not something you have to deal with on a moment-by-moment basis anymore. So that's good news. At some point, this is going to lessen to the point where it's not a factor in your life anymore. So here's the deal. We need to have something going on in our lives. And I've talked to you before about one of the biggest reasons we relapse is because of boredom. So if boredom is one of the reasons that I'm relapsing, I need to replace some of those things that I've been doing in the past with something different. So focus on replacing your past drug use with some new positive activities. There's some things you can do. If you're used to go home after work and drink, figure out something to do. You'll need to make a new plan to occupy yourself. Going home and staring at the wall is going to eventually lead to staring at a wall with a drink in your hand. So you just can't do that. We have to be active. We have to do something. Instead of going home and sitting down all by yourself or sitting down with your spouse, you need to go Go by the gym, stop off at the gym, work out, do something. Go play some basketball, do something. Get that exercise in that you know you need to get in at any rate. And then, that will help you to fight the need to use. It will give it. We have to put something in that spot because boredom is going to get us, and if it gets us, then we're going to be done. So don't try to do it alone. This is a big deal. We need to have some help in getting this done. That's why we have AA out there. That's why AA, NA, Al-Anon, all of those things. That's why they work so well. That's why they have helped so many people, because drunks helping drunks is a perfect formula for us to get into recovery. So, don't try to do it alone. Sharing your goals for sobriety with a friend makes all the difference in the world. Somebody is helping you. They can hold you accountable when you're making questionable decisions. This is why we need to have some sober support people in our lives and a sponsor. We need to have a sponsor in our life. And your sponsor can hold you accountable. But more so, your sober support group will hold you responsible. When you say something like this guy I was talking about earlier, whom I will tell you this, he'll be up here one day. He's not going to make it doing the way he's doing. So when we say something like he says, I'm just going to the bar to hang out, I won't drink. Then they can offer a kind ear when you're struggling. Why would I want to go to the bar if I'm not going to drink? Play pool, maybe. Have a soda, maybe. I've told y'all the story about 30 times, but let me tell it again because y'all don't listen too well. Had a lady that was coming to our group here in Beaumont. This was 20 years ago. Her son was the lead guitarist for the country group Alabama. Y'all know that group? Really good group. And he, play like crazy. So he was coming through town. Now the group wasn't coming through town, but he was by himself, just kind of a solo act, coming through town while they were taking some time off. And he was going to be playing at a local bar around here, some big venue. And she said, well, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go and watch my son play. And I told her, I said, well, that's really not a good idea. You're going back into a bar where there's going to be booze all over the place, and just to hear your son play the guitar. And she told me flat up, you have no business whatsoever getting in my personal life. You can't tell me not to go listen to my son play the guitar. I am going, and you can kiss my foot. And I said, well, you go ahead and go, and I'm going to pass on the foot kissing. We ain't doing that, but, if you're going to go, go. And I tried to get her to take somebody with her. I tried her to get, all the things you can do, but she went. And she got through that first night and everything was fine. She came back to the group and she said, hey, look, everything's fine, man. He's wonderful. She was even so nasty that she invited the rest of the group to come hear her son at the bar. And so luckily, everybody told her we're not going to the bar. She went back to the bar the next night. She was at the bar the third night when her ex-husband was at the bar. Yeah. And he knew that her old drink was a Tom Collins, so he bought her a Tom Collins and set that in front of her, and she took it and pushed it back like that. I'm soaked. Yeah. So after a couple of hours, she pulled it back closer to him. She didn't want it to fall off. She didn't want anybody, so she pulled it back closer to him. Before the night was over, she drank that Tom Collins. And by the end of the night, she was asleep on the pool table. So she didn't come back to group. So after about, I don't know how long, it might have been like a month or so, she showed back up at group. She had to start back over and everything. And she said, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is tell you you're right. I said, well, one of the easiest things I've been able to do is tell you, you're stupid. Here's the deal. Look, let me share this with you. If you have a son who is in a rock and roll group, a rap group, or a country and western group, look, tell that boy come over to your house. He's your kid. Tell him come to you and get all your friends together, and they can come over and they can listen to all of that stuff, and they can get a real close personal up front. Hey, how you doing? Right. All of that kind of stuff. Don't go to the bar because you have if there's a possibility. And I've had so many people tell me, well, you don't know the people I hang out. You don't know this. And, there's so much I don't know that it would take the whole world full of books to fill up what I don't know. All right. So, okay, you're completely, totally, and utterly right. But we don't need to be ignorant enough to put ourselves in a place of danger. If you see 9 guys walking down the thing out there, and they all got guns, and they shooting into the apartment complex and all of that stuff, don't walk out there and give them a bottle of water. Say, hey, y'all want a bottle of water? You get shot. Don't put yourself, if you know there's a possibility, if you know that there's an outside chance that you might use again, if you did this activity, why do you look? Let me ask you this. Why do you think it is that you are so diametrically opposed to some of the things that I tell you, like not going back to old people, places, and things? Why do you think that I'm so opposed to something like that? Because that's what I want to do. I want to relapse. I want to use again. And people say, no, that ain't it. That's not. Yes, it is. You need to get a hold of the fact that you have a stupid disease. And this disease is trying its best to kick your butt. And it will if you allow it.
You have to be careful at the restaurant too, because we'll have a party at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Restaurant got alcohol.
Oh, yeah. You have to be careful about the restaurants you go to, because there's a lot of restaurants like Cheddar's that serve booze. Right. But they have a separation. There's the bar over here, and there's the food over there. Right. Then there's places like Tia Juanitas. Y'all ever been to Tia Juanitas?
Oh, man.
I like it. Tia Juanitas is a bar that sells food. Right. So you need to stay to flip out of Tia Juanitas, because they're just a bar. Floyd's over here on the highway is a bar that sells food. When you walk into that place, you're in a bar, and it's easy to tell. Now, they will sell you food, but they make their money off of liquor. Twin Peaks, that's a bar. That ain't nothing but a bar. They do sell food, but it's a bar. So you need to, you do need to be careful about those places where you go. You need to go to it's almost impossible to find a restaurant that doesn't sell booze. Right. They make a lot of money off of that. So, but you have to be careful about that. I had a young lady not too long ago. I think she was at North not too many long ago, and she had gotten her a job, and she's going back out and going to go to. I said, well, that's fantastic. Where are you going to go to work? And it was at something like Twin Peaks. She's going to be a bartender. Look, let me tell you something. That's not a place for us. Twin Peaks, no, that's not a place for us. We shouldn't be going there. We also should not. If your profession is a bartender, you need to find something else. You need to find, because that's not a place you're going to be able to stay long. Now, again, there's always that outlier. There's that one person, that 2 persons out of 3 million that can do it. 90% of the time, it's not me. It's not us. So we need to, I'm not going to do anything that's going to threaten. And so if I hang out with old people and old places doing old things, that's going to threaten my sobriety. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to try to do it alone. Look, here's a big deal that when it happens, it's going to happen. We're going to have these cravings and stuff because your limbic system will lie to you. First off, it's going to tell you you're cured. It's going to tell you, you never were really an alcoholic. You never were really an addict. It's going to tell you, you know what your drug of choice? Your drug of choice is methamphetamine. So alcohol doesn't affect you the way methamphetamine does, and you never really had an issue with alcohol, so you can drink a couple of beers. Those people up there are telling you what they're telling you is theories. They're theorizing on your butt. They don't absolutely know that. Those people up there don't know how strong you are. Those people up there don't know how fantastic you are. Those people up there don't know, how you can do things. And then your limbic system is going to be lying to you. But besides, how could people be a trigger? How could places, So your limbic system is going to come and do all of that stuff. So here's the deal. Remind yourself that when those cravings come, they're going to pass. They're not a forever thing unless you entertain it. So don't entertain it. Have you ever had the experience when you're sick, you can't remember what it feels like not to be sick? Kind of at that point right now. Same thing happens with cravings. Give it time, believe it or not, that feeling will go away. Here's the deal. Your limbic system is telling you have to do it. You don't. We don't. So if we can wait a few minutes, we can wait a few hours, that thing's going to go away. This is why we do it. The AA will tell you, look, we're doing this thing one day at a time, right? If I tell myself, look, I may do this tomorrow. There's a couple of things there that are reasons why we do it one day at a time. Because some of you guys are pretty young. Y'all going to live another 40, 50 years. And when I'm thinking, I won't be able to use my drug of choice for 50 years. That's a long time. Right? That's a long time. But if I think, I'm going to be able to, I'm just not going to do it today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. So that's a whole lot less period of time. I don't have to worry about 50 years. I just got to worry about 24 hours. So that's a whole lot better. That's a whole lot easier, a whole lot more doable. But the other thing is, too, I am fooling my lagging piece of trash limbic system. When the limbic system says, you're going to die if you don't use right now, you got to use right now. If you don't use right now, you're going to die. When I lie back to my limbic system and say, well, you know what? I'm not going to do that today, but I might do it tomorrow. So you lie to your limbic system, and then when that'll calm down the limbic system, it'll shut up. It'll leave you alone for a little while, and you can go through one more day. Sometimes I have been in a situation where I did it hour by hour. So sometimes you have to do it hour by hour. I'm not going to do it at 12 o'clock. Maybe at 1 o'clock. It is going to go away. So, the next thing, remind yourself that that's going to go away. It's not going to be there forever. Here's the thing. Here's one of the things. Now look, I don't get offended. If you get offended, just keep it to yourself. Don't beat me up. Don't do any of that stuff. If you feel like you really need to beat somebody up, when class is over, see Mr. Mark. That's what we hire him for, so he can be beat up if I insult you or something. You're going to beat him up. So you'll have to look. One of the reasons, I don't want y'all to get insulted. One of the reasons, if I'm going to get into my recovery and stay in my recovery, there's some things I'm going to have to give up. There's going to be some sacrifices that I'm going to have to make. There's some things that I'm going to have to just let go. And, if not, I'm not going to make it. Now, we can try it. We can go out there and do it. Most of us already have. And fail.
Don't work.
We fail. It don't work. And so if we get back and we decide I'm going to give that one more shot, we get back out there, go back to same old people, doing the same old thing in the same old places,
Got it.
and it fails again, I want you to remember that you were told not to go back to old people, places, and things. And at that time, when you relapse again, you come back through here, you can say, aha, oh ho, maybe so, and you can get out of here a little bit different. There are some things you'll have to make sacrifices that go beyond just giving up the drug. Look, giving up the drug, it was a big sacrifice for me because that was my major coping skill. Some kind of crap happened in my life. That was my major coping skill. It's kind of hurts my feelings that y'all just share it with one another. If it's important, share it with the whole group.
Yeah, we just talk about
your treatment plan. Yeah. Yeah, so don't be doing your treatment plan in group. See, that's why we don't believe all this stuff I'm telling you, because all right, we have it's gone. We phased it out. We're over here talking about our treatment plan. I don't want to hear nothing that old boy got to say. He about to die anyway. So I don't care. I'm gonna do my treatment plan on. Not only am I gonna do my treatment plan, I'm gonna pull this other fella in. Cause he ain't doing nothing. To get him off, he don't need to hear this. So you come on. See, anyway.
But die anyway.
I die anyway. Look, if you I can't say the word. If you previously used drugs during specific activities, like watching a game on TV, how many people know you can't watch football without beer and wings, right? Or maybe pizza. They ain't gonna. Your team won't win unless you get drunk. Unless you get high, unless you get drunk, your team won't win. So, going to concerts. My wife, and I've told this story a lot of times, but my wife and I went to a Christian concert. Y'all ever heard of the Christian group Third Day? Third Day was mainlining, and they had a group that was opening them up, a guy named Toby Mac. And so we're watching Toby Mac, and he's crazy. He lost his mind back when he was about 6. And so he was doing some crazy mess, so it was fun. But, we're setting up on the hillside because it's cheaper. You can bring your own chair and sit on the hillside or just sit on a blanket or something like that. Yeah. And they had these big old balls that they were throwing around and playing. And all of a sudden, I got this whiff of, guess what?
Weed.
Yeah, weed. In this Christian concert, we're supposed to be, people who love the Lord out there just to praise God. There's marijuana in the air. So, concerts will cause you to be triggered. Spending time with friends, those things that you may have to give up. You may need to make some changes. Now listen. What is he doing?
Me?
Yes, sir. You're doing something. I don't know what it is. You're doing something. But this might mean, look, not watching the game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good grief. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good grief. Does that sound doable? Yeah, you can do it. You know what we do when there's a big football game on? We have football night at our church. And we just fill up the whole sanctuary with people. Man, they're drinking coffee and sodas and eating pizza and stuff like that. Watching. We've got these 2 big old television sets hanging on the wall. About this size, on 2 of them up there, and we got the game going on. Yeah, and they're watching the football game in church. There ain't no smoking, drinking, or cussing. Yeah. So we're doing it a different way. Or making new friends.
That's actually legit. I've seen it.
You've actually what?
It's legit. It's good.
Well, I'm glad he pointed out that I'm not lying to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, they do that in Byron too.
They do it better?
At Turning Point.
Turning Point, yeah. Turning Point's a good church. So maybe not watching the game. Or making some new friends who are what? Sober. Making some sober friends. Yeah. So how do you make sober friends?
going to meetings and different stuff.
Yeah, go to sober places.
Right.
Yeah. Say it again?
Meeting other sober women and men.
Yeah, meeting up with I always meet up with sober men and women. Yeah, and the deal is, can you just ask somebody?
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Yeah.
I would. Somebody say, hey, you want to come over to my house for some pizza and grits? Is there going to be any drinking there? You having any drugs over there? They say, well, yeah. Well, I'm not coming. I'm not coming. I used to go out, my wife and I used to go out with our friend across the street. We would go to eat once a week. We'd go out to eat. And one week he would pay, and the next week I would pay. And, it was a pretty good thing until one day we went out there, and we're at this seafood restaurant. He said, hey, Doc, would you mind if I had a drink? This is a gentleman who knows that I'm in recovery.
Yeah, he noticed.
So I said, absolutely not. That's up to you. You're full grown, man. So he got him a double bourbon and Coke, and he's took his finger, stuck his finger in there, and he's mixing it up. And you know how bad it is to hear that ice clinking in that glass? Clink, 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 clink.
That's real sugar.
And I've had people ask me, say, hey, you wanted that drink, didn't you? So how totally astute of you. And I wanted to suck the dude off I wanted to suck that bourbon off of his finger. Yeah. I want to get all of that. Yeah. And then I wanted to get the booze that was out of the glass. And then see, in your mind, to see what drugs already done it. Rotten. Nasty. Mind is nasty. Ain't nothing inside your brain. There's probably 3 cells, and they're jumping around going.
I need to drink.
I didn't say anything.
So it might be. Look, it could. So anyway, the rest of that story was when it became my turn to take them out next week. We didn't go.
Oh man!
And we have not been back again.
Did that cut off y'all's relationship, being friends?
What's that again?
Did you have a cut off relationship being friends with him?
Yes. Yes, he knew that was going to be something I did.
Boundaries.
So I didn't do it. Yeah, that was, and everybody knew that was a boundary of mine, and so we didn't do it. Yes.
I have a question about that situation. Oh, a hypothetical about it that I'm curious about. If he had stepped away and done it outside of your sight, right, without you knowing, how would you have felt about that if you realized later that he had?
Well, it's pretty obvious that he did do a little drinking, but I had never seen it before. I had never, one of the things that I do when I meet new people, people who haven't met me before, I tell them a couple of things. Hey, good to meet you, John. My name is Dr. Herschel Garner. I'm in recovery. I don't drink. I'm a Christian. I love the Lord Jesus Christ. Any of that makes you feel a little nervous, you need to leave now. Yeah, people need to know that I'm a Christian. People need to know I don't care what your religion background is. I don't care. I love the Lord Jesus Christ. He loves you. And if you want to talk about him, we can. But here's the deal. I don't drink because I am I'm an alcoholic. And if I drink, if I get to start, I'm going to whip your butt. Because I have that small man complex, and a couple of drinks, I'm 6'2", and I'm the meanest sucker in the house. And then I'm going to chase your wife.
Yeah.
So you don't want me drinking. I ain't the same nice, kind, good, and sweet person. So everybody needs to know, first off, I'm a Christian. Secondly, I'm a preacher. So one of the jobs of a preacher in the Christian community is to tell you about Christ. And so I will. You hang around me long enough, you're going to hear something about my Savior. That's just the way that is. Because, the Bible that I read says if I deny him, he'll deny me. Now, he ain't going to get the chance to do that in my case. And the second thing is that I'm in recovery. So I don't drink. Do Christians drink?
No.
Why not? Jesus did. Sure, Christians can drink. Sure they can. I mean, there's no place in the Bible that says not to drink. There is a place in there that says don't drink strong drink.
Right.
Once the wine has turned and become strong drink, leave that alone because it leads to folly. But back then when they were building the temples and all of that stuff, they were paid with bread and beer. Yeah, they would pay them with something to eat every day, a hunk of bread, and something to wash it down with, a thing of beer. So yeah, and then at the wedding at Cana, what did Jesus turn the water into?
Wine.
Wine. Yeah.
What did wine turn into?
What did the wine turn into?
Full belly.
Urine. After a while. So look, here's the deal, and we fully know this. We fully know this, and you fully know this. It can be really hard. It can be really hard to give up old people, places, and things. But that's what makes it a sacrifice. Right? All right, we're going to take our break. We'll get back in here about 20 minutes after. About 20 minutes after. Don't get and then we'll start back.
It's my baby. Feel like so. Oh, baby. Coming right now. You just called my name, didn't you? Somebody said somebody wanted me. Right here. I think shut down y'all. Okay. Somebody call my name. Thank you. That guy was mine.
Manor. It's like something. Hey, it's easy like something.
It's the one.
All righty then. Time to get started back. See over there north that all you ladies are in place, and I appreciate that. We're going to be done here in just a little bit. May finish a little early, and that's okay. We had talked about. Yes. I think somebody should. I think it should be these people who actually get paid to do it. But don't turn that music down. We talked about giving up some stuff beyond the use of the drug. So Well, they know when group is, and everybody that doesn't make it on the group on time needs to be
Group.
So here's the thing. We've given up some of those things that make it a little bit harder to stay in our recovery. Anything that we have a challenge on, anything that can be a challenge, we should be willing to give up. So,
Anything that presents a challenge?
yeah.
Group.
So y'all, everybody back? Everybody got their lunch going? Everybody ready? I'm not going to stay here very long. Anything that's going... when we go on break, we do that for specific reasons. Go out, have a cigarette if that's what you want to do. Come back in, go to the bathroom if that's what you need to do. Get a cup of coffee. By the time you got 15 minutes, I usually give us 20, 25 minutes. So by the time when we start back, we should all be back. We should have our coffee. We should have gone to the bathroom. We should have had our snack, whatever. So, going forward, we need to try to do that.
You said 20 minutes ago.
Oh, that is true, isn't it? Thank you for reminding me of that. I did say that, and I do apologize. I did. I apologize. I did say 20 minutes, and so y'all forgive me. Sometimes I do things that are just nasty, and I do apologize because I started at 15, and group didn't go. The group went to 20 minutes after, so y'all still on break. So forgive me for it. Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking that ain't rehab like being like repetitive?
Oh yeah. It is. He said rehab's supposed to be like we get prepared and all of that kind of stuff. The reason that we have to get back to group on time is just like when we have to start on time, all of that kind of stuff is getting us prepared for when we have jobs and responsibilities when we get out of here. But again, that was my faux pas. That was my fault. And I did mean to yell at folks, but I yelled at you too early because you still had about 5 minutes. You still got 30 seconds. So I would dance a jig for 30 seconds, but because I'm sure the ladies are not back in their place, although they're excited about group. They usually get in group. So all of those things I said about group are still true, but we're not being yelled at today because it wasn't really group time yet. But now it is. So we're gonna get started now. So thank you for that. Thank you for pointing that out too, because I really, yeah. Well, at this point, look, y'all know I'm not feeling well and stuff like that. So those things kind of slip by me sometimes. And I don't know who we need to talk to, but we need to get the Christmas tree down.
We talked about it.
Bad luck, ain't it?
Sorry?
Bad luck.
You said you trying to find the boxes.
Well, Mr. J is the one I think that came put it up, huh? So, yes, you did that? All right, so we'll be bringing it back now. And speaking of disrupting group,
Speaking of,
Chris.
look at that. See, and he was doing pretty well in group, but not anymore. He's being dragged out of group. That's all right. So, here's the thing. Now, I know some of us are not going to follow the universal trigger thing because for whatever reason. Because they don't think it applies to them, because they don't think it's real, because they think they can deal with it where everybody else, every other human on the face of the earth cannot deal with it. There are always outliers. There are outliers. There are people who can go against every rule of sobriety, every rule of recovery, and still make it, but they're just like the people who win the lottery. There are people who win it, but there are millions and millions and millions of people who play it who don't. And so and you can't put yourself in that group that makes it, even though they go against the grain. They only made it by the grace of God, and that's it. So we need to do something, and I'm not saying we need to help God in that, but God will sometimes allow us to do things. He said, look, when Paul asked him, hey, I have this thing in my life I need you to take care of, he asked him 3 different times, and God said, no. He told him, my grace is sufficient for you. So what that means is I'm not going to take that away from you. I'm not going to take addiction away from you, but I'm going to give you the tools to deal with it. And we take those tools and say, hey, these are the tools I need, and then throw them out the window. Is there can we, what's the word? We shouldn't be questioning why we relapse, because we take the stuff that people over the last 200 years have come up with and said, this is what works. This is the reason we relapse. This is what keeps us from relapsing, and say, not going to do it. Yeah, so, people relapse. So we just have to take that and say, okay. So, we also need to have a plan if something bad happens. So when things get bad, because at some point in recovery, they most probably will, we need to have a plan. Because here's the deal. People get fired, right? You ever been fired from a job? Never. Some people never been fired. I was 16 years old. Say it again. Some people never had a job. Some people like Mr. Sim ain't never. How come I never been fired? Ain't nobody ever hired me. That's true. I was about 16 years old, and I was working at a service station all night long. You work all night long, you get up and you go to school, and you come back that night, and you go work all night. So at some point, you got to get a little bit of rest. And so one night, I went to sleep while I was at work. And I slept all night, man. I slept well. I had my head down on the desk, and I slept well. Some low-life, no-count, no-good for nothing person came in, and he stole a set of tires, filled his car up, took all the oil that was on the oil racks outside, and then went in and got some sodas and stuff out of the inside while I'm sleeping right there, and he left. And then later on, my boss came and woke me up, and he looking around all of this stuff. And he said, you can now join the ranks of the unemployed. I said, okay. So, yeah, I've been fired. So people get fired. Stuff happens. Crappy stuff happens. As long as you live, stuff's going to happen. People get fired. Hearts get broken. You ever had your heart broken?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Horse.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it happened. And here's the deal, I mean, I fell in love when I was about 8 years old. So at about 9, I done had my heart broke 9 or 10 times. Sometimes people leave us forever. Sometimes people croak on you. Some people die. All that stuff happened. I had a fella in our IOP group had 13 DWIs. Now, the reason he was not in prison, which is where he should have been, he had 3 in one state, 3 in another state, 3 somewhere. He had them all around. They weren't all in the same state. And he was a fairly wealthy person.
Right.
So, he had a lawyer that could, he wanted big lawyer people, so he wasn't in prison. But his wife had died on a certain date, and this guy, every year after she died, that day, he would get totally smashed and go driving somewhere. Right. I mean, so stupid drunk that he would run off in people's yards and stuff, just crazy. And, and I was telling him, golly, man, You ought to be in prison. You ought to be dead. All of these kinds of things. You need to quit drinking. And he just let me have it. You know, other than my wife died, and she died right in my arms. I said, well, that is the stupidest thing. What a way to honor the passing of your wife. On the anniversary of her death, you get drunk, and most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, get a DWI. So, you know, things happen, and we can either respond that way, or we can have a plan to respond a different way. So stuff happens. Sometimes people leave. Develop a plan to get through these major life changes without the use of drugs before they happen. You know, don't do it. I just had a person die in our church. He was 78 years old, a veteran, and he died from something. They had his services just last Saturday, and his sister was talking to me, and she said it was so fantastic. So he had paid for everything. The funeral was all paid for. Yeah. I didn't have to preach the funeral. He had the pastor already paid for. Everything was done. Wasn't a big deal at all. Nobody had to worry about a thing. Why?
Because he took care of it.
He was prepared. Right. He had a plan. Big old everything. He had paid for the funeral. He had everything done. He was a pretty wealthy guy, and everything was taken care of before that eventuality. You know, if I die today, you guys are going to have to take up an offering. Yeah. I ain't got nothing. I wanted to get all that done, you know, and I think it makes good sense. I'm 72. I ought to get one. As you get older, life insurance gets more expensive. It's harder to get, more expensive. If you get it through the company, as you get older, every 5 years, it goes up and your coverage goes down. Yeah, that don't seem right, does it? But that's the way it is. So, but we need to know that, look, here's the deal. As long as we live, we can look forward to something happening.
Right.
You know, I was standing in my house about a month ago, and just, I don't know what I was doing. I was walking through the living room or something. I felt something go in my stomach right here. Yeah. Just boop. Whatever it was. Don't know what it was. Since that time, I have felt like poo-poo caca. You know, I have not felt well. I felt bad. Everything is, you know, something exploded. Something turned loose, and they can't find, you know, so stuff happens. Back in the day, would I have had a drink? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would have had more than one drink. You know, that's how I coped with things back then. So I got a plan now. So what I'm doing now is working to figure out what the heck is going on. I'm doing all of those kinds of things. If I get triggered, if I get to craving, if I get an urge, I call Don. And, you know, Don and I can talk for a few minutes. If you know, that doesn't work, then I have about 20 other sober people that I can get. I have a plan. And, you know, my first plan is to go to my higher power. And I talk to the Lord Jesus and say, hey, look, you need to let the Holy Spirit kick me upside the head or something, because this ain't working for me right now. Right. You know, I feel like I really need a drink. And so he does. So he comes and he helps me with that. I can tell you right now that I can remember what it was like to drink a half a pint of vodka. That's not a place I ever want to go again. You got something? Oh, he was talking to you? I apologize. I didn't know y'all had a conversation going on. Say it again.
But you said something that spurred that song that you couldn't keep up
and
with.
So you're singing the song to him? I think that's so cute.
I like it.
He liked it.
I said something that stirred the thought of a song, and so he's singing it to other people in the group.
Yeah.
That's nice. I sometimes wish I could sing, but I ain't singing. If I get to the place where I can sing, where it ever comes, I ain't singing to you. That's not. I'm not singing to you.
You're not singing these days. You just get around.
So have a plan.
Yeah.
Look, because here's the deal. We don't want to speak that over anybody or anything like that, but look, something usually happens in our life. Things are going to go the way they go, you know. And so if you're human, there's things on you that's going to wear out. There's things on you that's going to happen. If you are human, you also are emotional, because you have human emotions and stuff's going to happen. People are going to tell you they don't like your body odor or some other, you know. So it's going to be like that. And so when those things happen, the first thing your limbic system's going to do is say, wow, wouldn't a little methamphetamines make you feel better right now? Wouldn't a little cocaine be a real awesome fix for it? Wouldn't some bourbon be really, really awesome? Wouldn't just a nice cold beer, you just cut the grass, wouldn't a nice cold beer? No. So you have to have a plan when that thing attacks. Now here's one thing that we need to be careful about. I want to be comfortable in my recovery. I want to be comfortable in my recovery. I don't want to be like this guy I was telling y'all about earlier. I don't want to be just in sobriety, because that's white knuckling it. Yeah. I don't want to just be, you know. I don't want to be back in the bar. I don't want to be back around those people. I don't want to do all of those things. I don't want to be comfortable being around them, but I want to be comfortable with the new recovery life that I have. But I don't want to become complacent. What's the difference?
Comfortable is happy. Complacent is like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah, I've got this. Yes, I can go to. I can go to the bar, and I can have a pool tournament in the bar, and I can do this and I can do that. And once we get to that place of complacency where I've got this controlled, I've got it taken care of, then yes, I can have a one beer. Because one beer is not going to, yes, it will, wakes up the tetrahydroquinone in your brain, and there it goes. That's right. So don't become complacent with your sobriety. Don't become complacent with your recovery. If you someday consider having just a glass of wine with dinner. No, we can't do that. Don't make this decision lightly. Don't think, hey, can people have a glass of wine with their dinner?
Yeah, sure.
Sure they can, those who are not.
Addicts.
Yeah. Those who don't have this disease.
But they can take one drink and put it down and leave it there.
Yeah, they can. We can. We are addicts. What are they?
We got to take the bottle with us.
Yeah.
We have the disposition of having phenomenon.
Right. Those other people out there are normies. And if they're normies, they can do it. You and I, we're not normies. We're not normal. We are addicts. We are addicted. It's just like me and sugar. You know, I can't, somebody comes up with a big old piece of pecan pie, I can't just eat even a little bitty piece of pie. My son, for Thanksgiving, or Christmas, they didn't come for Thanksgiving, but for Christmas they came over. He brought a pie that had about 12 different types of pie in it. It was cheesecake, about 12 different types. It was cut up in these little things. And I'm looking at that, and somebody, I don't know, it might have been him or one of my grandchildren, or somebody said, well, you can have a little piece, Grandpa. No, if I have a little piece, look, being a diabetic, just like addiction, if I have one little piece, if I take one little bite, then I'm going to eat the whole pie. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
That's like trying to eat one vanilla. That's like trying to eat one vanilla.
Yeah. When I'd leave from here, I'd go get maybe at lunch or something, I would get a moon pie, or at lunch I would get a candy bar or something like that, and I'd eat it, and it would be great. And I'd say, okay, that's enough. Or I would go down to Miss Susan's office and get a couple of pieces of candy. Sometimes she had some good candy in there, and I get a couple of pieces of those candy, and I say, okay, that's enough. But when I'm leaving from here, my limbic system would say, no, it's not. And I'd wind up stopping at the dollar store and buying 4 or 5 or 6 other things. Wake him up before he.
I know you like to cook, Doc.
Stay away. Stay away.
I know you like to grill vanilla wafers.
I love it. Yeah, I do like those. So don't become complacent. If you just a glass of wine, you can't do that. If you struggle with addiction in the past, you're much more likely to develop addiction again. And these guys, look, they're really kind of nice the way they say that. If you've struggled with addiction, and look, that's not the way to say that. If you're an addict, this is like you got cured from our addiction, and it's easy now since we've already been cured from it, but it's easier for us to become addicted now since we used to be. That's not the way it is. We never got over it. Right? You can get over a cold. You can't get over this. You can get over a cold, but you can't get over HIV, right? You can get over a cold. You can get over pneumonia, but you cannot get over addiction. It's here. Can addiction be cured?
No.
Not by human hands. God can take it away from you. I've seen it happen. I've also seen God do other things like take away cancer and take away those things. Can't be cured by human hands. So the deal is we still have that disease. And if we go use, it's going to wake that disease up. Let it sleep. No, you go ahead. Just let it sleep. It's already too late. Just go ahead. If you cannot stay awake in group, you need to stand up on the wall or something because you get written up for being asleep in the group. Don't come to group to sleep. This ain't the place. So if you can't, and so he's decided to go to sleep. So that's fine. Here's another big deal. So if you do relapse, and some people do, right?
Right.
It happens. If you relapse, don't give up.
You come back.
Don't give up. One of the things that Mr. Farmer is all about is if you, we don't kick people out for relapse. We have that keep coming back thing. If you relapse, you keep coming back because we don't want you to give up. Because a lot of the time, there's 2 things about relapse. One thing is that if we go out and relapse, we may not ever come back. Some people, about 50% of people who relapse die.
Right.
50% of people who go out and relapse, they die in a car crash, they have liver disease, something takes them out. The other 50%, a lot of the other 50% stay in their disease and they just use for the rest of their life. They never come back out of that. So no, it's not all right. It's not okay. We don't want to relapse. But if you do, you don't give up. A lot of people find it helpful to keep track of how long they've been sober. Don't confuse discount with the true goal of leading a good life. I know a lot of people that know the exact moment they quit. I do. I know the exact moment I quit, December the 13th. I know that day. So, if you're not this year, it was a few years back. If you're at day 100 of sobriety, that's great. But if you make a mistake and you end back up at day 0, know that you're not starting over. You are starting over in your sobriety count, but you're not starting over because you have gained knowledge, experience, confidence. In other words, slipping up, relapsing is not a license to keep using. It's not a license to go on a binge. It's not a license to stay out there. So, the deal is some of us are going to relapse. And if we relapse, we don't need to say, okay, I'm done. I can't not do this. Every now and then I go and eat a cookie. Mm-hmm. And if I eat a cookie, most of the time I'm going to wind up eating a whole box of cookies. But look, the next day I'm going to start all over again. I'm not going to do it. One of the fallacies that I have fallen off into is the sugar-free candy, sugar-free cookies. Those things, they are sugar-free, but they got other kind of crap in them. They are not good for you. Right. If I can eat a box of sugar-free candy and my
Boy,
goes right through the roof. Yeah. So that stuff is not helpful either.
but they have sugar in it.
Say it again.
They have sugar in it. You might say it don't.
They got something in them that makes you go up. Yeah. So one thing else this is really, really important. We've talked about this a ton of times. How many people know what a ritual is? What is a ritual? Tell me what a ritual is. Something you repeat. A habit you repeat. Something that we do on a daily basis. And let me go right back one more time. This is why we tell you to stay away from old people, places, and things. Because you build your ritual. You have a ritual. Everybody in here this morning, everybody in North, put your pants on this morning by putting the same leg in that you put in yesterday. Why is it?
That's a ritual.
That's your ritual. That's what you do. You get up in the mornings, you put your right leg in your pants.
Right.
Or you get up in the morning, you put your left leg in your pants. It has never failed to amaze me, but there's always somebody in that says they put both legs in. Now, I guess you can do that, but you got to be sitting on the side of the bed, and people do that, I suppose. But I put my right leg in every morning of my life because that's my ritual.
I could be on the bed, I'm still put my left leg first.
So, it's not important for us to know which one you put in, but what's important is for us to understand that you guys, you got.
I was trying.
But I want you to pay attention in group. Tell him later. You had a whole break. Tell him all that stuff
I
later.
was thinking about ritual and routine. Like
Okay, well, share it with the group. If you got something, share it with the group. Share it with the group. Because you're disrupting everybody behind you is trying to hear what you're saying. You're disrupting me. I'm saying, what the heck? And he's leaning over, whispering in his ear. Just tell everybody. Come on. Tell everybody. So here's the deal. How you celebrate holidays, promotions, or any other happy occasion. If your answer includes any sort of drugs back in your past, then you want to get creative, figure out something new. Go wild with a new hobby for the day. Treat yourself to a nice dinner. Take a weekend trip. Make sure it's something you can get excited about. Here's the deal. If my ritual is to get up in the morning, go over to Bubba's house, say good morning to Bubba, smoke a couple of joints with Bubba, have a couple of shots of elderberry wine with Bubba, and then have a couple of shots of hard liquor or maybe some methamphetamines or cocaine with that's my ritual, that's what I do every day, then I need to stay away from Bubba's house because that will throw me into my ritual. What's the difference in a habit and a ritual?
A ritual is something
that you do all the time.
And a ritual is something you do, you don't have to think about. That's
right. Automatic.
So, series of insights you do on a continual basis.
What is action without thought?
Action without thought.
That action without thought is a reflex action. That's what my ritual gets me into. It's an action without thought. Thought without an action can be a craving. If I'm just thinking about it without doing it, that is thought without action. But if I don't have to think about it, that is action without thought. So my ritual becomes action without thought. So this is what I do. I do it every day. I do it the same way. I don't even have to think. I don't even have to think about doing it. What do you do when you sit down in your car? What do you do?
Buckle up.
You buckle up. Everybody do that?
I do.
When I sit in my car, the very first thing I do is buckle up. I buckle up my car. First thing I do. Before my car started, what I do.
You get that push to start?
Say it again.
You get that push to start?
Do I have a push to start?
No.
No.
Got a key.
My car is 2009.
Yeah, you got a key.
No,
That's a good year.
it is a good year. So I have to turn the key on. But before I do that, I buckle up. My wife, on the other hand, backs her truck up, goes down the driveway, goes out the gate, gets the gate closed behind her, and then buckles up before she drives out on the highway. That's her ritual. Sometimes when I get in my car to call her, I'll go out of here and go sit in, and I call her. That's another ritual. She's waiting on me to call her, so when we break at 10 o'clock, I call my wife. She has some health issues, so I want to make sure she's all right, so I call her at 10 o'clock every day. Then on my way home, I want to call her again. Usually if I'm here for lunch, I'm going to call her again. That is a ritual. So the thing that I do at 10 o'clock, I'm going to go sit in my car. I have actually, when I just sit in my car for 10 minutes to call my wife, buckled up.
Right.
And I'll sit down, reach for my phone, and I said, what?
Move.
Why would I buckle up when I'm not going to go anywhere?
Right.
It's a ritual. It's what I do. And that's why we have to stay away from old people, places, and things, because that person is the one that I used to use with, and that's my ritual.
Right.
I use with Mr. Sim. So when I see Mr. Sim, and I will guarantee you sometimes when I see Mr. Sim, it makes me want to use. But that's my ritual, and when I get into my ritual, let me tell you something, it's almost impossible not to do it.
Right.
When I get up in the morning, I'm going to put my pants on the same way I did today.
Right.
It's almost impossible to get out of my ritual. This is why we tell you stay away from the people, places, and things that you have ritualized in your past. If you don't, look, I make very few guarantees in life because it's hard to do that. I'm going to make you 2 guarantees this morning. And y'all take it for what it's worth, because there's always that outlier. There's always that one person that's going to go down there and buy a lottery ticket and win. There's always that. But for the great majority of us, that's not going to happen to us. It's just not. But here's the guarantee I make. If you go out there and you stay away from old people, places, and things, you won't relapse. That's a guarantee. Look, if you stay away from old people, places, think about the last time you relapsed. It was under old people, places, and things.
Right.
One of those got you. Here's the other guarantee. If you go back from here, you get out of here, and the day you leave from here, the person that you used to use drugs with picks you up, you are going to relapse. You ain't got a snowball's chance in Phoenix, Arizona. It's just, that's just the way it is. Can I be wrong on that? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been wrong so many times in my life now, it doesn't affect me anymore. You were wrong. Okay. Maybe not next time. Maybe next time, I'll be right. But I'm going to tell you, if you go back out and you go back to the old people, places, and things, you're going to relapse.
You're right.
You're going to relapse. You don't have, you almost don't have a choice in that. When I worked out to the prison, I was there for 16 and a half years. I saw a lot of those guys leaving out of there scared to death. Because they had gotten sober, they had seen where their life was a toilet bowl, and they didn't want to go back to that lifestyle. But the state of Texas, in their great wisdom, makes you go back to the county you fell out of. They make you go right back to the same house with the same people, same environment. And that's a county thing, because the county that you didn't fall out of, like if you fell out of Jefferson County, because Chambers County doesn't want you. You know, they've got their own people. So they don't want to have to deal with you. So the state's going to, and I can understand that, but that puts you right back in the old people and we're up there teaching every day. Don't go back to old people, places, and things. And then the state says, hey, we're going to send you back to old people, places, and things. And then they say, wonder why we have such high recidivism rates.
I think Trump's working on something for that.
I think Trump's working on something for everything. Right? Man sleeps 3 hours a night. I don't know how you do that. But anyway, come up with some new ritual. Do something different. You know, do something different. What can you do different? What's the first thing that comes to your mind about doing something different to change your ritual? No drugs, somebody said. Okay. How about staying away from old people, places, and things? That's a change. Those don't look. I know y'all know I'm beating this too much, but let me tell you this. Old people, places, and things, that is your ritual. That's your ritual. Sure. That's what's going to cause you to relapse. No stinking doubt about it. If so, now look, now I'm and always saying there's always an outlier. But when somebody comes and tells me I'm going right back to my mama's house, and mama, you know, she's a crack addict, of course, and my brother and sister live there, and both of them are selling and using. But, you know, I'm in my recovery for about 30 minutes. And that's the drive from here to the house. So when you get to the house, mama gonna help you out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You something to help make you feel better. You've been in treatment. Yeah. So, you know, it's really, really important that we get a hold of that. Because if we don't have a snowball chance in Phoenix, Arizona. So, all right then. Look, I appreciate y'all letting me yell. I do. Thank y'all for being participatory in group and all of this kind of stuff. And that's it. Thank y'all.